Next step is to get the exhaust loose on the back side of the engine. I can't get my camera to focus down in there to show you guys really, but middle of the frame down there in the bottom, there's a 2-bolt flange down there, and for whatever reason Ford decided it was best to have the nuts on top. So you have to reach down behind the engine. They're really tight. Really tight. And there is room to get an impact in there with a shallow socket. You just basically come through this opening right here and you can get down underneath those heater hoses back there. But so we've got that done, and then I'll show you guys underneath. We have got to get those off. So, and from the bottom here, there's the flange from the bottom. You can see the gap there a little bit that we got when we got those nuts off of the top. And so we're gonna get those off of there, and then we'll get to removing. After that, we can come back up top here and we can start removing those guys. And that one, the stud came out, and that's okay. We don't really care either way. We may have to break those loose later, but we can double nut if we need to get them off of there. These are they're a pinched nut, as you can see. So they're a style of lock nut. That's why they sound like they're a bear coming off of there. Alright, so now, let's see. We've got one more bolt, as I recall, down underneath. Next we're going to take this evap tube off. So we'll work on that. Disconnect it from the throttle body here. And then it has a clip right here on the throttle body. Okay. I always label those connectors. Everything should lay back the way it was, but I like to label things because it just makes it a whole world easier. Especially on modern day vehicles, when you're going to put everything back together and you're like, where does that go? This just alleviates that. And you never know. Sometimes you get your project apart and something happens and you're away from it for a few days, a few weeks, a few months. You know, something like that, and then you come back and try and pick it up and you're like, oh shoot, what was that? What was this? Clip right there, and then we've got another clip back here underneath the brake booster. And that'll come off. I think I showed you guys this before, but just to see how these connectors work. So you've got that. What you do is, this has these little tabs sticking out the side. Pull those out gently, and that thing will slide like so. And actually, I mean, you could just take it all the way off. And then you press this button, and when you press the button, it disengages. So these are nice. I mean, they have them all over the evap lines and stuff like that. They're really, really nice because they come apart really easily. We'll get this intercooler, charge air cooler, CAC as they call it, out of our way. So we're going to go ahead and take, you guys might not be able to see that, but we're going to take the clamp glues that supports the line. Okay. Alright, now we'll figure out what's going to take to get it off the bottom. Alright. Now, and the cooler pipe is out of there. Okay, we got the coolant hose that goes from the bottle here comes across, goes into here, and then goes underneath and goes to the bottom. There's a line that goes under the turbo there. So now we'll go ahead and we're going to work on getting these two lines off. I already have the clamp loose on this one. These tools, guys, they come in handy for a lot more things than just bobby pins. So now, we've got the other one going to the block. Okay, now with those two little lines off, and I've labeled them and tucked them up by the fan there, we'll go ahead and get this line off. At least now I can get a regular pair of pliers on it. Or a small pair of channel locks. Oh, the keeper function's not going to work on this one. Now it does. Got to be really careful what you're prying against here, because all of this stuff is plastic. So guys, these have a locking function. You can see it right there, to help you get it pushed back far enough, that'll slide behind this tab and then it locks. And then when you go to put this back on, you can just pry from here against there and it pops that tab underneath, and then it'll spring back down again. Now we're going to work on this hose, and you guys may not be able to see it, but there's one back here as well. Grab those clamps wrong, like I just did, you prevent that tab from locking for you. Alright, you bugger. Okay. Get some better light like that. Again, we're dealing with plastic here, so we're going to be real gentle on this. I think I just felt it pop loose. there's a little clip down here. That I want to pop loose. And then that'll just should let us stow this hose over out of the way. That way when we go to start pulling those engine and transmission bolts out, like that one right there, we won't have that in our way. Alright, so we've got, that's our fuel line, which we're going to be careful working around. And we've got one more. This is a heater hose back here. And we're going to work on getting disconnected. Alright. There's another wire looped over the top here, which goes to, it looks like a fuel pressure sensor. I have no idea why it's wrapped around it. And we'll just tuck this heater hose back by the back of the battery tray there. Okay. Alright, now we're going to get the crankshaft position sensor connector unhooked here. There we go. Get that yellow tab back in there. You press that tab in and then it'll come loose. Work on getting the rest of this harness out. The lower harness disconnected at least. Getting those harness connectors there, and then we will disconnect the alternator, and we'll get the battery cable off the alternator from the top. Okay. And the only reason this stuff's wet is from us removing those coolant lines. The one in the block is straight up above this. Okay, I think we'll get, there's another one of these up top. We'll get that from the top, and like I said, we'll get the battery cable from the top. So let's go ahead and get this little coolant line off of here. I'm just going to carefully tuck it behind the radiator hose we took off earlier. This other harness stays off of here, off the alternator. And for the battery cable going to the alternator, it's got this little cap. And then that looks to be maybe a 13. Alright, I'm just going to put the nut in the rubber boot back on there so they don't get misplaced, and I definitely don't need to use up a plastic bag and label it and all that when I can just drop it back on there. Now we'll disconnect this harness connector. They definitely keep you on your toes here because every one of these connectors is a different style. You guys may already know this, but if you do what I did there and use a small pair of pliers or channel locks, just remember you're dealing with plastic. Be really gentle with it, but it's kind of embedded behind these ears in order to be able to squeeze that. So, but that's got all of this harness loose now. So we'll go on from there.